That's a gay-ass podcast.
What? That's a gay-ass podcast. What? A really, really, really gay podcast that we call That's a Gay-Ass Podcast.
That's a gay-ass name for a gay-ass podcast.
Welcome back to That's a Gay-Ass Podcast, the podcast that asks, whose fault is it that you're gay, babe? It is me, Eric Williams, and this week I am delighted to have Jake DuPree on the podcast in a very classic gay-ass ep. Jake is such a theater queen and also an international star. Get this, they have done burlesque in Paris, in London, in Berlin, in Sydney. They opened for Christina Aguilera and also Kylie Minogue in Las Vegas. They performed Kinky Boots at the Hollywood Bowl. I mean, the list goes on, and their stories are just delicious. Before the interview, though, two quick things. One is I'm doing a new live show in Los Angeles. If you're around April 11th, it's a solo show that is very gay, very horny, full of Broadway, and that is April 11th in Los Angeles, where the link is in the description. And also in the description is the link for the really, really good bonus episode that I have up on the Slatreon with Cole McKenna. You might follow him under the handle Post Cole on Main. And it's a bonus episode worth listening to. That is at patreon.com/gay-ass-podcast. But enough about that. Let's get into this incredible interview with Jake DuPree. We talk about what it's like having a gay twin brother. We talk about the city with the hottest guys, the incredible women that inspired Jake to harness their femininity on stage, and a bunch of Broadway talk. So enjoy this ep with international superstar Jake DuPree. Jake DuPree is on That's a Gay-Ass Podcast. Jake, I have been a fan for many a year, and there is a lot to unpack. How does it feel to be on That's a Gay-Ass Podcast? Tell me what's going through your brain.
I mean, I am gay. I have an ass, and I love a podcast, so it feels completely correct. And also, I'm a huge fan of yours. I have listened to so many, and I feel honored to be here.
Jake, that is so fucking nice. And we have seen your gay ass, and it is truly 12 out of 10. I mean, there's a lot to unpack with you on this podcast. Sure, the fact that you grew up in a small town in Arkansas. Sure, the fact that you've done burlesque around the globe. But you've also done Kinky Boots at the Hollywood Bowl with Wayne Brady and Jake Shears.
Yes,
so because we are theater queens on this podcast, you need to tell me, were you a theater queen growing up? Did the bug hit you later on? What's the journey?
Oh, so theater is genuinely, I think that's, if not number one, number two for sure for me, because I think the first musical I ever saw was Cats. And I was sitting on the aisle, and I have a twin brother, and he was sitting next to me, and this cat comes up to us, and I mean, I can remember her face in my head right now. And I mean, I was young when this happened. So that was such a formative thing. And I think that the way that they move and just kind of like the overall sensuality of that show, I think that's kind of followed me throughout my life. And I've gotten to do Cats regionally twice, which I'm like very, very proud of.
Holy shit. That is,
which was
like
so incredible.
That's like
full circle.
NFL level of theater, is if you are doing not only full beat as a kitty cat, but also extension, heaviside layer.
Baby, I mean, it was honestly so difficult. I liked it because I was slotted into every hard dance part, which I kind of, by the end of that show, it was like, I earned this, 500, whatever it was. I mean, I was non-equity at the time. So it was like very, very
yeah, I earned the $2.50 a week they were paying me to do one of the hardest shows, 8 shows a week.
And I'm doing way too much in the show, more than I should be doing. You know what I mean? Just flipping everywhere. But it was incredible. I loved it so much. And honestly, it's what has informed me now, what I'm doing. So it's really cool. But Kinky Boots, in terms of that, it was, I had been gone to the Hollywood Bowl a million times to see shows, and I'd always gone to see the musicals. I mean, I saw Ashley Simpson in Chicago there. It's like, loved,
I got chills.
Loved.
Chills.
So to get to do, I was in London at the time of the audition, and I had to record in my ex's living room, which was maybe the size of like me spreading out my arms, and I'm, having to do a backflip and learning the audition combo. And I was like, this is never going to happen. Like, this is just never going to happen. I go back to LA, and then I get callback for it, and I go into the callback, and I'm in full drag. No one else is. And they were like, "Cool," but it was like I don't know. I just wanted to show up that I was like, I'd rather be at 100 than not. So that's where
and clearly it was worth it because you booked and then you got to do the show. There, you just gave us like about 15 different important pieces of information. The twin brother of it all, we're going to have to unpack.
Oh,
the
yes.
regional theater of it all, we have to unpack. The London ex-boyfriend, a lot to unpack. The first question that comes up as a follow-up, when you were doing Cats, let's get into first that part of your history. You're with your twin brother, first seeing it. Is this seeing a regional production? Are you seeing a Broadway tour? Where were you going to see shows growing up?
I saw the Broadway tour, and it was in Memphis at the time. I can't remember the theater. I should know that.
As someone who also has a twin brother who is he is very different from me, so I that is something that interests me. Was your twin also into theater, or were you living very different lives?
My twin was also into theater. He's a broadcast journalist now, so he's into the theater of that, which is really cool.
Sure.
But we both grew up doing theater. We both did Odyssey of the Mind in high school, if you know what that is.
I don't.
Okay, so it's like, how do I describe this in like quick terms? So you get 7 minutes. I'm pretty sure that's right. 7 minutes. You have to choose a problem, and we always chose the performance problem. And it's kind of like within this 7-minute sketch, you have to cover all these things. And we went to world competition several times, so it was like, and to be from my hometown and for that to happen, I mean, is crazy because there was no part of my hometown experience that ever encouraged kind of performance or anything like that. So it was a group of 8 of us, I think, and we were just this really close group of like kind of theater nerds that were doing Odyssey of the Mind. And if anybody knows what that is,
like,
they know.
It's like it's almost like debate club, but instead of that, it's like you're presenting something in a theatrical way, and you guys were so good at it that you got to the international level.
I mean, sure, yes.
Well, it's clear that you have had like big ambition. I mean, growing up to then getting to the Hollywood Bowl, but of course doing burlesque all over the world, which we'll get into. But I don't know, there's something about you that is so interesting to me when it comes to the small town beginnings, the twin brother of it all. Is your twin straight?
No, my twin is gay and he has a husband. And they just got married over this summer. It was so fun. It was so
okay,
cool.
Well, I'm canceled for asking if your gay twin brother is straight, but holy
How
shit.
dare you? No.
How dare I? Wait a minute. Ugh. See, I'm jelly. I mean, like, I love my straight twin brother. I do.
Oh, wait, I was about to say, is your twin straight?
Very, very.
Oh.
One time I told him that our younger brother looked like one of our cousins in drag, and he said to me, "What is drag?"
And you said, "I have to go."
Oh, and I went. I said, "I have to go," and I went. Yeah, no, it's,
oh my God.
I'm telling you, it's like there's a lot of. I come from a lot of straight people, and so when I talk to someone like you, that you know, your twin was also into theater and just got gay married. I mean,
got gay married.
What a gorgeous Arkansas family that became huge queens.
Literally like the biggest queens ever. And it's funny because my mom was a dancer like all growing up, and she like reluctantly did pageants. She's one of those girls that was like, oh, I'll do this pageant, you know, just for shits and giggles, and then ends up winning it. But she was a dancer, and so this one time she was giving up a crown, and her dance partner was this gay man, and he passed away years and years ago. Yeah. So she has been around, I think, a lot of gay people in her life. So I always call her like, you know, she's one of the ones. She
gets it. She gets it.
Oh, she definitely does.
There's something about, I think, the straight allies that we love, whether it be our mothers or our teachers or whoever the fuck, if they have been around gay people and know what it's like to giggle in a green room, or they know what it's like to kiki over a martini tea, it makes us interacting with them feels so natural because they don't feel self-conscious, like that. I think that's why it's sometimes we can feel so different or like weird when we're talking to the straight people who don't get it, because you can feel their uncomfortability or they're making fun of us, versus like your mom is like, sweetie, I've been around gays in pageants nonetheless. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, she'll be the first one, even like costume stuff or like dance stuff. She'll be like, that wasn't it, or that could be better. You need to fix that wire under there because that's not looking great. Like she's always like at a level of perfection that I think I've adopted, sometimes in a toxic way from my own self.
Girl, I was going to say, it sounds like there's the good and the bad. I also come from a family of perfectionists that it leads to sometimes good work and other times really rough thoughts and
yes, debilitating at times.
Debilitating, and sometimes we don't enjoy life because we're too focused on making things perfect. But listen, we're doing everything we can a day at a time to just try to put not even our best foot forward, a foot forward, Jake. We're putting a goddamn foot forward. And the next foot I'm going to put forward is asking you the famous podcast question. Jake DuPree, whose fault is it that you're gay? Who do we blame, babe?
I think you blame my grandmother on my dad's mom. She was fabulous. She always was like costume jewelry to the nines, like always done up. She had lots of makeup, but she was so beautiful. I feel like her actual skin never saw the light of day because of how much makeup she wore, which is amazing. And I think that's kind of, again, something that's informed me in my life now. But she was the person, like as a kid, she would buy both of us Barbies. I had the full Spice Girl Barbie dolls, both the on tour and the regular costumes, and we kept them at her house. And it's not that my parents weren't about Barbie, but I feel like they were just nervous maybe that we would get made fun of, namely me, and because I'm just the louder kind of out there one of the two of us. But my grandmother, it was always encouraged. I'll never forget, like in her bedroom, she had this huge armoire and it was like filled with like all this kind of like girly fun stuff. And I was always attracted to like the nightgowns and the little nighties. And I would wear those things. And there was a hallway that came out of her bedroom and I would, be like pumping it down the hallway I was so young. I mean, how would I even have been exposed to that or informed to that? I mean, it was just part of me, and she never judged any of that. And it's like, I don't even know if she fully even knew what it was or whatever, but I always have this kind of emotional response talking about her because she never looked at me as like an other or a weird or strange or whatever. And then on the opposite of that, to go to school and to feel, so othered and like constantly, this is what you are, before I was ready to hear that. It was cool to have that, especially at a very young age, to have that freedom, and then to kind of have to compartmentalize some of those things in your life. It's fun. So I feel like anytime I'm on stage doing the stuff I do now, I mean, granted, there's like a strippy, like naked part of it all, but I feel like I'm that little kid with her again. It honestly makes me feel connected to her again in some strange way.
I mean, Jake, it really makes me emotional. Just when you said that your grandma did not judge or cast or make you feel othered. I mean, that is the magic of someone like her. What did you call her? Was she grandma to you, or what was her name?
No, Mima. That was her name. Mima.
Even better.
Yeah, very Southern.
Me motherfucking ma, bitch.
Maybe.
And is Mima with us, or has she crossed to the heavy side layer?
She has crossed over. She died she had breast cancer, and then it moved to her liver, then her brain. And that was when I was in high school. So it's been a long time.
So you really had these incredible memories with her as a child, and then to lose her in high school, I can only imagine the pain. But when you say that you feel connected to her when you perform, I mean, I absolutely believe in the woo-woo shit of.
I do too. I fully
feeling
believe
the presence of those people, and I'm sure she is gagged by watching you perform around the globe.
I mean, I'm sure that there's some things she's probably appalled by, but I'm also kind of into that. I think that I do like the shock aspect of it a little bit too much sometimes.
Listen, we're not fully living our queer lives if we're not at least shocking our family members on this earth or on the other side. I mean, if my dad told me he listened to the episode with producer Nathanael, and I was like, God, that's so nice that he listened, but also didn't we talk about like pink hole and shit? Like I try not to decipher too much what my family will think. And if we're being really honest, I used to do that. I used to worry if I was posting something or putting an episode out or something, like my first thought is, what would my family say? And once I've sort of removed myself from like, I cannot give a fuck about that because I'm not living my life for their approval. Obviously, I care about their love and respect and boo, 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 but I'm not living my life through their eyes. And so it's like this weird, like we want to, respect and
if
love
you
those
limit
people.
that, if you limit that for yourself, things won't be successful or perceived
Authentic.
by somebody as like authentic. Yeah. So
Exactly. Because I don't want to be like tiptoeing. I don't want to be tiptoeing around things just because I'm worried about what my mother-in-law would say, which by the way, she is like so supportive and great. But again, like she is a Georgia Catholic woman that I'm sure if she were to hear all the things I was saying on the podcast or whatever, it's just like your Mima. What the fuck are you showing, Jake? Why are your tits out at the Louvre?
Literally, she'd be like, why is your ass / your asshole almost out every time you're on stage? And I'm like, well, sometimes it has been out, so let it be
and
free.
Those lucky audience members to see your pink hole. I mean, it's just I'm so grateful to live in a world where Jake DuPree is giving us performance. But it is interesting to me when we do talk about the burlesque of it all. You obviously have this love for femininity and lingerie, and it sounds like when you were growing up and going to your grandmother's house, was that the first time that you actually felt sort of that power of like putting on, whether it was the 90s? I mean, do you remember the first time you put on a bra, for example?
Oof. Yeah. I mean, I think the first time I put on a bra was sort of not recent, but recent-ish in my life. So it was probably when I was 29, 28 maybe. But I don't know. It was funny. I would wear these kind of like bralettes, garters and thongs like underneath my clothes sometimes, and nobody would know. It was just for me, and it would just make me feel like it was so weird. It's like I feel oddly comfortable in that for some reason, and I don't. I wish I knew why. I wish that there was a reason, but it just feels really natural to me, and I think that's why it works. I don't know. It's so strange, but I remember the first time I put on a bra and it felt correct.
Yeah, it's almost like not that there are any straight men listening, but it's almost like when like I don't know. What's the Marvel movie Iron Man? It's like when Iron Man puts on the suit and then all of a sudden it's like the light. It's the wrong reference, but it's like you feel your power, like you're putting on the magical glove or whatever the fuck. It's like you can't explain why, but I think that's partly the stupidity of straight people having issues with either non-binary people or trans people, where it's like, sweetie, these people are feeling so complete and so authentic in their power, whether it is putting on something underneath your clothes or being in drag, whatever the fuck. And it's like, you feel that way when you have
a football jersey or anything that's their version of drag. It's like
exactly, and you don't
none
see
of
us
these is
being
different
like,
than the other.
Yeah, and we're not like, you don't play on a football team, you fucking loser. Take that thing off. It's like, no, eat your grits or whatever the fuck.
You know what my pet peeves is when straight people go to the beach and they feel like they can play a sport. I'm like, you've never done any. You're the least athletic person I've ever seen in my entire life, and all of a sudden, you and your shorts that go down to your knees are throwing a football, thinking that you're something. And I'm like, let's talk about that. That's the podcast right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, straight men have the audacity, should be the title of this episode. The audacity of straight men.
I will tell you though, like with all the stuff that I do, I feel like my relationship with straight men has definitely improved, which is crazy. I never thought that would be something that would happen. So I am thankful for that.
You actually, you had a really great interview where you said something like that. You said, having straight men come up to me and say things to compliment even just my performance or say that was so beautiful has remedied my relationship with straight men, which is something I never thought would happen. Is it is it because you can see them changing their perception on gender, or what is it about your relationship with straight men that has changed?
Well, I think I hate to say it, but I think, obviously growing up in the environment that I was in, you kind of seek approval from these straight people. So
Oh
there's
yeah.
some unhealed wound, obviously, that's in me that I hate that I have that, but it's just a part of me. And I think the part that I loved about getting into burlesque and performing the way that I do is kind of releasing this need to get anybody's approval. And so to be in this like full, for me, what is authentic and like being in front of people that might not have seen anything like what I'm presenting, and for them to respond the way they do, it was something that completely shocked me and was something that was not a goal at all. But it's been this really cool thing because some of the spaces that I've been in, they've never had quote unquote a male identifying body, taking their clothes off, especially somebody
Right.
who's presenting it in a more feminine way or whatever.
Right.
And to have them, not only welcome it but encourage it and be accepting of it is so it's incredibly freeing. And it's also, it plays with your head a little bit. You're being like, maybe was I the problem all along and not accepting them? You know what I mean? It makes you second guess like what was the actual perception and what was my reality versus their reality at times too.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I think what I'm hearing is that it's almost destabilizing you when you get respect or admiration from straight men when historically that might not have been the case. And so I want to validate that feeling, but I also think that there is no part of me that thinks that straight men were always really great to you growing up. Like, I know that you were very much treated like shit and othered just like I was. And I think that it is okay for their validation now to heal some of your things, some of your inner child pain, because I am doing this, working on this new solo show, which has been sort of one of the biggest mind fucks, because I can be on a podcast and put these things out and feel nothing in terms of like fear of being unsafe or of being whatever. And then the second I start to work on a live show that I know will be in front of other people, my fight or flight kicks in. I worry about being a failure, blah, blah, blah. And all this to say that I'm realizing through writing this that a lot of my validation or even like healing came from the validation from other people, whether it was a straight guy being nice to me as an adult, whether it was hooking up with someone who actually enjoyed body hair when I was so self-conscious about it. Like sometimes validation from outside sources can do the healing, and maybe we're not proud to say that that's the case, but I can only imagine straight men being actually in awe of you now would feel so different from how they felt growing up.
Yeah, I think too, it's like there have obviously been times where people have walked out of, stood up and just walked out of stuff that I've done, and I'm like, that's fine. But there's times where I think initially when I come out and they see me in this kind of like feminine presenting way, and I think it is like freaks them out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then whenever they see that more athletic stuff that I can do, like backflips and like drop splits and stuff, they're like, oh, that's my, I don't know, the straight voice, like, ooh, like sounds like Neanderthalish, but
yeah, fuck yeah, they're doing the fucking splits. They're on their hands, bitch.
Like, I can't believe you did that, stuff like that. So there's something cool to that in terms of being like, I'm going to get you. And it's like, it's going to get you. And what's also been funny is like hearing sometimes the things that they'll say to me in my DMs about certain things. And it's like,
go on.
I mean, there have been a plethora of straight men that have hit me up and, tried it. And it's like, sometimes it is fun to like entertain being like, whatever. But I also am like, you need to figure out you before you can ever cross this threshold. So
girl, I can only imagine the DMs you get from straight men who are feeling, what is this feeling so sudden, and new? Have you, okay, well, now we're going to have to get into some journalistic questions because
Okay,
you
okay,
have
okay.
performed around the globe. You've performed at hugely famous theaters in Paris, the Folie Bergère. You've also done the Winter Garden Variété in Berlin. You've gone to the Windmill Soho in London. You've done venues in Australia. Have you, question one, have you hooked up with an audience member in any of these places?
So I have the entire time, pretty much the entire time of all this stuff that's been happening to me, I've been in a relationship and I'm a monogamous person. So
Sure.
I have not hooked up with anybody except my ex
So you were in a
after Chad.
monogamous relationship and now you're currently single.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's then manifest or fantasize. You are back performing internationally. What would you say is the city, if you could snap your fingers, what city has the hottest people that you would like to unleash yourself upon?
Paris.
Mm,
10,000% Paris. I mean,
mm.
everybody is so beautiful and really cool and chic and kind of effortless, but there are some beautiful men there, like beautiful, beautiful men.
Oh God, I had the sheer pleasure of studying abroad in Paris my senior year of
Oh,
college, and
I'm
I
so
too,
jealous.
I was in a monogamous, well, I was in a monogamous relationship, but it was very new, and I said to my boyfriend at the time, I was like, "Listen, I have dreamt my whole life of going to Paris. Can we be somewhat open while I'm there just in case something happens naturally?" Of course, he was like, I hate this so much, but sure. And then what's so devastating, and I'm so sorry, Jake, to tell you, is that I was so full of shame and fear about sex. I did not touch a single person the whole time I was there. But I of course wanted to. And one time I met this guy on the metro. We like I fucked a little bit and then started to talk a little bit, and of course my French was like good-ish, but I was still like really really struggling to keep up. And then we got each other's phone numbers, and then he ended up essentially ghosting me because he texted me, "Why did you know what are you wanting to do? Why did you talk to me on the train?" And I said to him, of course all this is in French, I'm like fighting for my life, I'm like, I'm just trying to make new French friends and just want to hang out. And I think he was like, oh, this guy does not want to fuck, and then he ghosted me. And in hindsight, I would have loved to have fucked him. He was so hot, and I never did.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times where it's been like opportunity has presented. Obviously, I'm like, no, no, no. But it's now I would be like, let's see what happens.
Yeah, do you well, where do you currently live is my question.
So I'm actually in my hometown in Arkansas, and I severely sprained my ankle in January on
Oh,
stage in Paris.
oh.
So I've been off for like, almost 3 months now. And it's finally almost better. I keep looking down at it because I keep like it's back. Like I can go into a releve, which is so nice.
Oh, thank God,
Yeah.
Des.
It's not the best. It's not completely 100% back, but it's very close, which I'm very excited about.
Well, I've been seeing you post about that. I mean, I'm sure it really talk about like being destabilized by, your work has to stop based on a severe injury. I mean, that how are you doing like mental
Mhm.
health wise? Are you staying okay? Are you devastated?
So I will say, okay, so my breakup happened sort of right after this happened. So it was like,
Jesus H, Jake.
I will say the past few months have been very tough. I won't lie about that. And I am very thankful to feel back to myself. I think that's why I wanted to like do something today for
Yeah.
this on my face because I was like, I've just been in quiet, like peace mode, kind of like trying to find inner peace. And also, whenever you're somebody that constantly moves, is constantly using my body, like that's my whole life, is
Oh
just
my
my
God.
body, really. I think that when that's removed from you and you kind of have to figure out, oh, who am I as a person without all that? I
Outside of
think
it. Yeah.
that's been an interesting thing. And it's like, is it perfect? No. But is it better? Yes. Yes. And I feel good. I feel good, which is nice.
Well, it's okay. It's also okay to say, times have been tough because everyone I've been running into recently, especially with what's going on, whether it's politically or globally or whatever the fuck, it's like, the answer is all like, I'm just basically pretending I'm okay. And I think that whether it's pretending or just doing the things that feel good. Like, I'm going to shout out my friend Greg, who I was telling him that I've been spiraling lately a little bit, just feeling overwhelmed. And he was like, it is okay to like do the things that genuinely bring you joy in the micro. Like, even if eating a pint of ice cream and smoking weed is not the healthiest thing to do, if there's a moment that you really feel like you need it, now is the time. We are like, now, whether it's an injury and a breakup, or whether it's just overwhelm, imposter syndrome, or reading the fucking news, like, I think we're now in an era that it is okay to do the things that feel good, whether you're in Arkansas, whether you're in Paris, wherever the fuck you are.
Yeah, and I think too, especially in this time, it's like I wish people, it's like, just do things that feel kind and good to you, because you never know when, number one, things can change so quickly, and number two, it feels so dark, and it just makes you feel sad. You're like, I don't know what is happening. I don't know what's going to be coming. I don't know where we're all going to be in 4 years. So I think it's just be kind. I think that's what I've been trying to do with myself with this. It was tough for me because I was in a relationship in the 2016 election, and it ended shortly after the election, my relationship of a long time, and then this one sort of happened, and I like put in a lot of time both campaigning for Hillary and campaigning for Kamala, like doing all the phone banking, like texting, all the stuff. So for that to not work out, and then for this to happen, for my ankle to happen, to my breakup to happen, it was like just compounded to be a lot of shit. And it's like, but you know what, I kind of feel like I needed the time out a little bit. I just needed to get off the hamster wheel of everything that I was doing, because I was just so always like, we're going next, right. future. And that's, sometimes that's not a good place to live.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying you hit rock bottom, but I am saying that a breakup or a low moment does.
It's close.
Okay. So if we're gonna categorize her as rock bottom, I think it's sometimes actually there is the positive swing from the other side of a rock bottom, which is the building up to higher than you were before. And that's why whenever my friends go through a breakup, I'm like, you are grieving, you are in a dark place, and I validate that. I know that, but you are gonna have you were going to be a badass bitch, and you're going to feel that moment. You're going to feel your big tits, whether they're actually there or otherwise, and you're going to feel better than you did before. But speaking of tits, I need to ask you about your looks when you perform. For anybody who doesn't follow you, please go to Jake's Instagram and just look at the costumes. It is art. I know that you went to SCAD, and so you have this sort of visual background, but you have a quote about the costumes that really inspired me. You said, when I'm on stage, I'm very intentional about everything I wear, makeup, hair, all of it. I'm really trying to show the admiration I have for these women who paved the way for me to get up there and parade around the way that I do. I have to trust myself and believe in the vision I have in my head of me as this androgynous kind of statue of David that got stuck in his mother's closet. Are you joking? That vision of the androgynous statue of David that got stuck in his mother's closet is so delicious. But I do need to ask you, if you're showing admiration for these women, what women did you worship growing up? Besides your grandmother and, of course, your mother, were there women in pop culture or Broadway or anything that inspired you to become the baddest bitch you are or perform the way that you do?
Oh, I have a laundry list of this. So number one was Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I think
huge.
Just seeing her doing backflips in, vinyl latex, but it was such a formative thing for me. And I just remember how hot I thought she was. And it was not like I was attracted to her. It was like, I want to be her.
Of course.
And I think just, I don't know, there's that image of her with the glass with the cat, and she like cuts it out with her fingernail. There's just some things that, and then the whip of all the heads of the mannequins and stuff like it's honestly, it's just such a formative thing for me. Number two was Jessica Rabbit. The tits, the giant tits. Well, and just like the overarch of the foot, just like tipping along, and then there was something so otherworldly and kind of like drag about her that I was like, this is just who I want to be. And then Marilyn Monroe, I'll never forget the first time I saw Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I was like, it just enthralled with this person, and I just thought she was so clever and funny. Even at a young age, it was more about just that wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of thing that she always did so well.
Yes.
With, I don't know. There's just something about that. And then Josephine Baker. I remember seeing something in I don't know, is it maybe an encyclopedia about, I don't even know, but I just remember seeing her banana skirt and just being like, who is this? And her like face, kind of being like turned and like cross eyes and everything. And I don't know, those are the women that kind of formed me. And also Ginger Spice from the Spice Girls. I liked her because she was the naughty one, where she was like, squeezing King Charles's butt. And I just think that I don't know, there's just something about her that it was an ownership of sexuality, but in a way that's like, I'm going to get what I want and have so much fun doing it. And that's kind of all those women in total.
Well,
like
I would say you embody that on stage, getting what you want and having fun while you're doing it. I mean, there's like that
10,000%.
that sense of power. And I also loved Ginger Spice's horniness. I mean, I've tried to embrace my horniness as a gay ass adult, and I think Marilyn Monroe obviously does that too. If Marilyn Monroe were alive today, obviously there would be an army of gay men who are obsessed with her. Do you think when she was in her heyday, and of course straight men were like throwing themselves at her, do you think there were like factions of closeted gay men who were just like gagging over Marilyn Monroe behind the scenes?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, her makeup artist, her costume designer, those are people that are super, super close to her. And I think that she fully championed those people and kind of lifted them up. I mean, even if you look at the things that she did with Ella Fitzgerald and like trying to get more of an integrated audience terms, like seeing these people, she was obviously way ahead of her time in terms of acceptance and love. And same with Josephine Baker in terms of she's one of the main people that helped integrate audiences in America and in Vegas too. So it's like there's an activist side of these people that's kind of looked over sometimes because of the way they look or present. And I think that that's very smart, very, very smart.
Yeah, well, I think they are owed the attention of what they did for minorities. I mean, whether it was at the time the segregation racially, but also that they felt other themselves, and so that's why they championed, whether it was the black audiences or I'm sure their gay makeup artists or the people around them that were also sort of the outcasts.
And all of the chorus people that were in Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, like all of those were gay men. Like, let's just be very real about
that like there was drama where two of them fucked each other, and then Marilyn had to like be the tiebreaker, or like had to mediate. there was drama backstage.
Oh, 10,000%, being like, my gray white stripe in my hair is not matching, so I need you to back the fuck up. So
exactly. God, I want someone needs to write something that recreates like the gay drama behind the scenes of Marilyn Monroe. And I think that would be, I mean, I know Smash is on Broadway now, so we're getting Marilyn in that way. But Marilyn deserves every piece of pop culture that is written about her. Another big giant in terms of female is Kylie Minogue and Christina Aguilera, who you both worked with in Las Vegas. First of all, how did that happen? How did that come to be?
Okay, so I'll start with how it all kind of came together. So the private birthday party that I did at the Louvre, where I came down from the ceiling.
Yes.
That the people that were behind the talent side of that, I had never worked with them before. The party planner for that entire event, which was insane, he's the one that connected me with them. And so I go to Paris, I walk, down to the museum, and I'm going to like do the thing. And there they are, these two people, Marc Zafuto and Manon Savary. They're Parisian, amazing people. We had the most fun that night because I did it. And then they were going to leave and not go to the after party. And I was like, I'm not going to this by myself. And it was crazy because it was like Brooke Shields, Jane Krakowski, Kelly Ripa, who else? Neil Patrick Harris and his husband. It was literally, and then Mark Ronson was the DJ for the party. And
so this is the private party that you performed at the Louvre. It is star-studded.
Yes, and I didn't know who these people were. I mean, to be honest, I didn't really care because I was like, I'm making a paycheck and I'm going to be in Paris for a few days, so whatever. And then when I go back to my hotel and I get ready and I'm coming back and I'm walking by the museum and the security person stops me and I was like, oh, I'm performing. And they were like, no, there's somebody. And then it was Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, did no one know these French people? They don't care about these American celebrities. So it was just wild. And then I go in and I see who's there. And I was like, how is this happening? But I was like, they're going to see it all. So let's go. So it was really fun, like going to the after party and meeting these people and like connecting with Brooke Shields and like being brought over to meet Kelly and Mark, like, you know, these people, and getting to tell Jane Krakowski that her Call from the Vatican performance is literally something that is very formative for my life. So it was just one of those moments where everybody was like loose and kind of drunk and being silly. So it was a fun environment because I was in my like full get up. You know, getting to like cut up with these people. So it was fun.
How did Jane Krakowski respond to your fangirling?
She was so nice. She was like, she's like, that's such a specific thing. And she was like, that's never what people come up to me and say. That's what I'm like, honestly, I watched that video at least once a month, at least.
Well, that's an iconic video, but I'm sure, what do you think people go up to her? They probably say 30 Rock. Is that what they're
like? I'm sure it's Jenna.
But she is, listen, I would probably talk about She Loves Me. I mean, there was a moment in She Loves Me where she was like, Gavin Creel, I think, dragged her across the floor when she was in the full split. And to see a fucking like comedy queen Beltress bitch also do the full split there. I mean, you obviously know how people respond to you. There is something that makes our gay genes like the synapses fire.
Everything falls apart and builds back together at the same time.
Exactly.
And also I saw her in Damn Yankees at City Center years ago as Lola. So it's like that. And I did get to tell her that too, and that was really cool.
She was probably in heaven.
Oh, she was like, who is this little queen? And I had this like cat suit on and the ass was like cut out of it. So, and you know, it was just perfect. But those two directors, they do this show called Phantasma Circus Erotica, which is now Phantasma Cabaret. And it was at the Folies Bergère. And they emailed me because I went back to London. And then they were like, we're doing the show in the fall. It was like November 2023. 22, I don't know, whatever. But they asked me if I wanted to be in it. And I was like, I've never performed at the Folies Bergère. That's something I've always wanted to do. That's where Josephine Baker was, you know, when she came over from America to Paris. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. And I come into this production and there's several people that are from international performers, but it was like, I'm this literally random person that they didn't even know. And then now here I am in this thing, and I kick off the show doing XXX by Kim Petras, which they picked out. I'm so happy they did because I love that song. From doing that, they had talked to me actually at the Louvre party. We were, you know, one too many champagnes, just I love you, you're great, whatever. And they were saying that they were doing this Vegas show with Kylie Minogue, and they were like, you should be in it. And I'm like, yeah, not thinking anything, not realizing that would actually ever happen. And then when I went back to do a longer run of Phantasma, they were like, listen, Vegas is happening. And they were telling me more about it. And I was like, yeah, like I'm down. So whatever you want, like I'll do whatever. I'll never forget like getting like the offer letter from it. And I didn't know Christina wasn't a for sure yet, but it was kind of talked about that she might be there too. And I was like, this is so crazy. And then I got to see like what my number and like my costume and like the song and stuff that I was going to get to do. So I was like, this is so crazy. And then to be there and to meet Kylie, she is the nicest, coolest, most normal person that she is exactly the way that you would think that she would be, which is really, really cool. And Christina is so cool too. Like, very, very, very different from Kylie, like very professional and kind of like in her little bubble, but she
I get that.
is so beyond amazing. Like I never even heard her warm up, and she would just like walk on stage and just do the run, da 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 da, whatever. And
It actually makes sense to me,
it was
though.
surreal.
That makes sense to me, though, like the Christina energy of you. She's been performing since she was a child. She's been through a lot of bullshit, and I'm sure that she is a professional. She knows how to get the gig done. Kylie, of course, is also an icon who's been working for a million years, but there's more of like a freedom, like a chillness to her. But as someone who aspires to continue to work in the entertainment industry, I need to know, what did it feel like when you got the offer letter to do this show with Kylie? I mean, did you celebrate? What did it feel like?
I mean, I don't even really remember like when I fully got like how I celebrated. I think I was just like, this is so crazy that this is actually, I think I was just kind of in disbelief because, somebody that's doing somewhat of a niche art form or niche expression, and then to be like, you're going to be at the Venetian, you doing this number, which was like over 5 minutes long, and you're opening for both of them, and the possibility of maybe being in their part of the show.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I was just shocked that it could even exist and actually happen. So yeah. And Vegas is such an interesting place because it's not necessarily the most,
it fucking
queer
sucks.
place.
Listen, I think there's a lot of amazingness about the shows, and I love that RuPaul's Drag Race has their long-running show, and I love that Magic Mike can have horny people across the gender spectrum, and I love that Kylie and Christina and you are there, but I also think it is one giant Times Square that is full of bad straight people.
Yeah, and it's like it's like Midwest Southern. This is where they go to be like, oh, I've seen Paris, and it's the hotel. I've
seen the entire world, Nevada.
Yep. And I think that there was definitely like a shocking, like our show was like very queer, and like the Kylie crowd is those nights I will never forget for as long as I live, because it was literally the perfect moment, because these people are down to clown and like love to see just gay ass fun queer shit. And it's like, I wish that the world could exist in those moments, because it was amazing. What's interesting about the Christina crowd is like there are still a lot of straight people, and also she has the name recognition for somebody that's, no offense, but like from Ohio, and like wants to just, I'm like, oh, Christina's performing tonight, I'm gonna go see her. So it's like you get this weird mix, whereas Kylie's like, there's not anybody in there that I wouldn't be like, they're amazing. So
Kylie audience is family. Christina audience has some family, and then there's many a straight men who are there with their wives from Ohio watching you show your pink hole and being like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, but then having to be like okay with it because everybody else around them are probably okay with it, so that it's like, but you don't want to be the person.
Those straight husbands DM you after the show, and then
it happens.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. I'm sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, we're all watching The White Lotus this season and watching Sam Rockwell do a monologue about, is he an Asian woman? I mean, it's like, it's very much straight men are going through something right now that, it's been a long time coming, I think, where there's a figuring out of what they actually want versus what the world has told them to want. And maybe it is not just a cis woman, boo, boo, boo. Like, I think I always say, like, bisexual people and pansexual people, I think, are truly some of the most incredible people out there, because they allow themselves to feel anything and everything and are open to that. And I'm like, that is I wish that everybody could realize that that's how they should be. Oh, I agree. And that I would say bisexual and pansexual people are probably the biggest demographic that is the least accounted for and public, and you get it. Okay, well, Jake, I could truly talk to you for about 5 more hours, because your journey has been so inspiring and exciting, and the fact that you have this gay twin brother who is also watching you do this, and he's also having his gorgeous gay wedding and beautiful gay life, and you're badass mom. And I'm sure your other brother is a star as well. We love him. Is he straight?
Love him. He is straight. So we got the token.
There's one
we got
of
the
them.
token one, and he likes to hunt and do all that. So.
Okay, and God bless. At least one of you in your family is living up to the Arkansas archetype. But I do need to ask you the final podcast question, Jake, which is, if the world was ending, you could only save one character actress, who would you say?
This is so tough. Probably Jackie Hoffman.
Jake, I'm gagged. I'm literally talking to her reps right now about getting her on the podcast.
Oh,
but listen. I'm never supposed to say that because she has not confirmed, and it's not. I'm just saying I love her too, and my dream is to talk to her. And what a fucking good answer! Jake.
I saw her in Xanadu I think 3 or 4 times on Broadway, and
I saw Xanadu as well. Loved.
That was my first introduction to her as a person, and I was like, this is somebody that I am obsessed with.
Woman.
I loved her. I mean, and I loved her in Feud too. It was so good.
Good. Jackie Hoffman, especially as a Jewess myself, and seeing just this wacky, she almost comes across like a crazy Jewish aunt who is like a musical theater queen and on TV, and she is so singularly herself, the way that she speaks, the way that she looks, the way her comedy. No one has said Jackie Hoffman as their character actress of choice, and I think that you have absolutely you received an A+. I know that perfectionism is not the way to live, but you just gave a perfect answer, and I need to tell you that.
Thank you. I'm very proud. I don't know why. She just is the first person I thought of. So
perfect.
That's where it is.
We love you, Jackie Hoffman, and we hope one day to be able to talk to you on this gay ass podcast or backstage at a Broadway show, wherever the fuck. But Jake, I'm so glad that you and I got to talk on this gay ass podcast, and I'm such a fan, and I would just like you to know how grateful I am that you brought your joy here and you continue to fucking bring your joy around the globe, whether it is with a sprained ankle or showing your ass cheeks at the Louvre or otherwise. Now, Jake, can you tell the listeners where to follow you and if there's anything you'd like them to know?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Jake DuPree. I got rid of my Facebook because fuck that shit. And I also don't have Twitter anymore because also fuck that shit. So just do Instagram for now.
God bless, Jake. We have linked it in the description, and I know that I've enjoyed this very much. The listeners are obsessed, and I will see you cruising the men in Paris.
Oui.
Thanks for listening to this episode with Jake DuPree. If you enjoyed, please tag us on Instagram. Make sure to drop a comment on YouTube or a like if you are there to help this episode reach more gay ass girlies. And of course, for the bonus episode with Cole McKenna or Post Cole on Main, that is at patreon.com/gay ass podcast. It is a delight to have you here every single week. I'm a grateful gay ass queen. And just do me a tiny, tiny favor and stay gay. Bye. You've been listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast, hosted by me, Eric Williams. If you want to see and hear more, make sure you subscribe to us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or Patreon at Gay Ass Podcast. That's a Gay Ass Podcast is executive produced by Eric Williams and produced by Nathanael McClure. We'll see you next week.